Captain Alan Wright stood at the main viewport of Earth Defense Station Alpha, his blue eyes fixed on the stars. The quiet of the command center broke when warning lights flashed across every screen. Sensors detected energy signatures unlike anything in human records. Multiple objects emerging from what appears to be artificial wormholes, sir, said Lieutenant Frank Davis, his voice steady despite the tension. Alan nodded, his military training kicking in. Battle stations. Alert all Earth Defense Force bases, but hold fire unless I give the order. The objects materialized fully, massive ships with sleek, curved hulls that shimmered with a purple energy field. 12 vessels in total, each larger than the biggest human aircraft carrier. They arranged themselves in formation around Earth, ignoring all attempts at communication. Sir, they're scanning our major cities, reported Communications Officer Lisa Brown. Her fingers moved rapidly across her console. Power readings are off the charts. Alan took a deep breath. He had trained for first contact scenarios for 15 years, but nothing in the simulations matched the reality of actual alien warships in Earth's orbit. Open all frequencies. Let's try again, he ordered. The main screen flickered, and for the first time, humanity saw the face of an alien being. The creature had gray-blue skin, 4 yellow eyes arranged vertically, and what appeared to be breathing tubes extending from where a human nose would be. I am Supreme General Vex Thor of the Zarnaxian Empire, the alien said in perfect English, its voice surprisingly deep. Your world has resources we require. Surrender them peacefully, and we will allow your species to live as protected servants. Resist, and we will take what we need by force. Alan kept his expression neutral. This is Captain Alan Wright of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations, but we do not respond to threats. Perhaps we could discuss trade arrangements that would. Primitive species always negotiate when they should submit. Vex Thor interrupted. You have 1 Earth rotation to consider our generous offer. The screen went dark. Alan turned to his second-in-command, Major Sandra Garcia. Activate Protocol Omega, and get me the Secretary General. Within an hour, leaders from every nation gathered in an emergency virtual council. What the Zarnaxians didn't know was that Earth had been preparing for this day since the recovery of a crashed alien scout ship in 1972. The ship, hidden from the public, had provided insights into advanced technology and confirmed that humanity was not alone in the universe. The defense grid is ready, Sandra reported as Alan returned from the meeting. All orbital platforms are armed and cloaked. Ground-based ion cannons are locked on each Zarnaxian vessel. Alan nodded grimly. Let's hope they decide to talk instead of. A bright flash lit up the view screen. They fired on San Francisco. Lisa shouted, energy weapons hitting the Bay Area. But instead of scenes of destruction, the screen showed the energy beams dissolving against an invisible shield. Shield technology holding at 92% capacity, Frank reported, a hint of pride in his voice. The city is safe. The aliens had no way of knowing that each major Earth city had been equipped with energy shields reverse-engineered from the recovered spacecraft. For decades, governments had secretly funneled resources into defensive technology while maintaining a public appearance of typical human development. Alan opened the communication channel again. Supreme General Vex Thor, you have fired upon our world without provocation. This action constitutes an act of war under our laws. We request immediate cessation of hostilities. The alien commander's face showed what might have been surprise. You have defensive capabilities beyond your expected development stage. Interesting, but futile. 3 more Zarnaxian ships fired on different cities. London, Tokyo, and Cairo. Again, their weapons had minimal effect. Alan's expression hardened. You were warned. We will now demonstrate that we are not the primitive species you believe us to be. He gave a nod to Sandra, who pressed a sequence of commands. From hidden silos around the world, Earth's first line of defense launched into the sky. Hundreds of quantum-tipped missiles, designed specifically to penetrate the type of shields the alien craft employed. The space battle for Earth had begun. Lieutenant Samantha Kelly strapped herself into the cockpit of her XF-92 Raptor stealth fighter. The advanced aircraft was the product of both human innovation and reverse-engineered alien technology. Its matte black surface absorbed radar and other detection methods, while its engines operated almost silently. "Eagle Squadron, report in," she called through her communication system. 5 other pilots confirmed they were ready. Their mission was critical: deploy Dr. Greg Miller's quantum disruptor device against the Zarnaxian fleet while Earth's defensive systems kept the aliens occupied. "Remember, we only have 3 disruptors," Samantha reminded her team. "We need to hit their largest ships." The underground hangar doors slid open above them, revealing the night sky. One by one, the fighters shot upward, their advanced propulsion systems allowing them to reach the upper atmosphere in minutes. "Activating stealth systems," Samantha said as they approached the battle zone. "Stay in formation and follow my lead." In orbit, the Zarnaxian ships were now facing unexpected resistance. Earth's defense platforms had emerged from their cloaked state and were firing concentrated ion beams at the alien vessels. Several smaller Zarnaxian ships showed damage, their purple shields flickering. Supreme General Vexthor slammed his 4-fingered hand against his command chair. "Impossible. Our intelligence indicated this planet had no space-based weapons." His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Draz, reviewed the incoming data. "Sir, we are detecting unusual energy signatures from their defensive systems. They appear to be using technology similar to Sector 7 civilizations." "That cannot be," Vexthor hissed. "These humans have not even colonized their own moon properly. They should be at least 3 centuries away from such capabilities." Meanwhile, Samantha and her squadron approached the Zarnaxian flagship from below, using Earth itself to mask their approach. The quantum disruptor, a small device that fit in the fighter's weapons bay, was designed to create a localized field that would temporarily disable any advanced energy systems within its radius. "Target locked," Samantha announced as her targeting computer identified the largest alien vessel. "Deploying disruptor in 3, 2, 1. The device launched silently from her fighter, its thrusters guiding it toward the Zarnaxian flagship. When it reached the optimal position, it activated, sending out invisible waves that interfered with the alien ship's energy matrix. The effect was immediate. The purple shield around the flagship sputtered and failed. Its weapon systems went dark, and even its artificial gravity faltered. "Direct hit," one of Samantha's pilots shouted. "Their shields are down." Earth's defense platforms redirected their fire, concentrating on the suddenly vulnerable flagship. The giant vessel began to list to one side as emergency systems failed. On the Zarnaxian command bridge, chaos erupted as systems failed, and the ship shuddered under Earth's counterattack. "What is happening?" Vexthor demanded. "Some kind of energy disruption field," Draz reported, his voice tight with worry. "It has affected all our primary systems. Shields are offline, weapons non-responsive." Vexthor's yellow eyes narrowed. "Order all ships to fall back and regroup. We need to reassess this situation." Back on Earth, in the underground command center, Captain Alan Wright watched the battle unfold on the main screen. The Zarnaxian fleet was breaking formation, several ships clearly damaged. Lieutenant Kelly's mission was successful, Major Sandra Garcia reported. 3 enemy capital ships have been disabled. Alan nodded, but his expression remained serious. "This is just the beginning. They'll be back with reinforcements. We need to take this to the diplomatic level." He turned to his communications officer. "Contact Ambassador Diane Powell. Tell her it's time to implement Phase 2. Across the Atlantic, in a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Ambassador Powell received the message. She had spent years studying intercepted alien communications and preparing for this moment. Earth had discovered the existence of a Galactic Council, a governing body for spacefaring civilizations, and now they would demand a hearing. The next battlefield would not be in space, but in the halls of galactic politics. Ambassador Diane Powell stood before the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. The circular room was built inside an enormous space station orbiting a neutral planet called Nexus. Getting here had been the first challenge. Earth had only recently developed ships capable of faster-than-light travel, using technology pieced together from decades of studying alien wreckage. Remember, we're here to present our case and seek justice, not to start another fight, Diane told Captain Alan Wright, who stood beside her in his formal uniform. 4 security officers waited behind them, hands resting near their concealed weapons. "I understand the mission, Ambassador," Alan replied. His eyes scanned the alien guards positioned at the entrance, "but I don't trust the Zarnaxians to play by the rules." The doors slid open silently, revealing a chamber larger than any human conference room. Raised platforms arranged in concentric circles held representatives from hundreds of alien species. Some looked almost human, while others were so different that Diane struggled to identify their sensory organs. A tall, slender alien with silvery skin approached them. "I am Xin Zarath, Supreme Counselor of the Galactic Council. You claim to represent Earth, yet your world has no registered representatives in our assembly." Diane stepped forward. "Supreme Counselor, I am Ambassador Diane Powell of Earth. We come seeking emergency intervention against an unprovoked attack on our world by the Zarnaxian Empire." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many council members turned to look at the Zarnaxian delegation, led by Ambassador Krell, a smaller but equally fierce-looking member of Vexthor's species. Sinzarath gestured toward the center of the room. "Please present your case to the council." Diane walked to the circular platform that rose slightly from the floor. A beam of light surrounded her as she began to speak. 3 Earth days ago, a Zarnaxian battle fleet entered our solar system without warning or communication. They demanded our surrender and attacked our major cities when we attempted peaceful dialogue. She activated a small device in her hand, which projected 3-dimensional images of the Zarnaxian ships firing upon Earth's cities. Preposterous. Ambassador Krell stood, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Earth is classified as a Level 2 civilization in the Galactic Registry. They have no space defense systems, no faster-than-light travel capabilities, and certainly no knowledge of the Council's existence. This presentation is clearly fabricated. Instead of arguing, Diane played another recording, the actual conversation between Captain Wright and Supreme General Vexthor before the attack. The council chamber grew silent as the recording ended. Then, Diane revealed something that caused an immediate uproar. Footage of Earth forces successfully repelling the Zarnaxian attack and capturing 3 of their warships. "Impossible," Krell shouted. "How could primitives defeat our advanced warships?" Supreme Counselor Xinzareth raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Powell, these recordings suggest capabilities far beyond a Level 2 civilization. How do you explain this discrepancy?" Diane looked directly at the council leader. "Earth has been studying alien technology for over a century. We recovered crashed spacecraft, intercepted communications, and prepared our defenses in secret. We suspected we were not alone, and history taught us to be cautious." She gestured to Captain Wright, who approached the platform. "We captured this data core from the Zarnaxian flagship," he said, holding up a small crystalline object. "It contains records of 17 other worlds the Zarnaxians have attacked, all classified as pre-contact civilizations, supposedly protected by council law." The chamber erupted in shouting and discussions in dozens of alien languages. Some representatives stood, pointing accusatory appendages at the Zarnaxian delegation. Xinzarath's voice cut through the noise. "These are serious accusations that require investigation. How did you even reach this chamber? Earth has no registered transportation capability to Nexus." Diane smiled slightly. "Perhaps that is the point, Supreme Counselor. Earth is not what the Galactic Registry says we are, and we believe the Zarnaxians knew this when they attacked us. They expected an easy victory, and instead found themselves facing a prepared adversary." The council members looked at each other in confusion and surprise. The humans had not only defeated a superior force, but had somehow reached the most secure location in the galaxy uninvited. Earth had just announced its presence to the galactic community in the most dramatic way possible. The Galactic Council chamber remained in chaos. Representatives from hundreds of worlds spoke in their native languages while translation devices struggled to keep up. Supreme Counselor Ixin raised his long, six-fingered hands for silence. "We will have order," he said, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "Ambassador Powell, your claims require verification. How could Earth advance so quickly without detection?" Dr. Patricia Nelson stepped forward from the Earth delegation. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her eyes showed the wisdom of her 60 years studying alien artifacts. "I can answer that," she said as she took her place on the central platform. "I am Dr. Patricia Nelson, head of Earth's Synorchaeology Division." She activated her own display device, showing images of crash sites across Earth: the Arizona desert, Siberia, the Amazon rainforest, and the Indian Ocean. The first documented crash of an extraterrestrial vessel on Earth occurred in 1908 in Tunguska, Russia. Our official history records it as an asteroid or comet impact, but the truth was different. The display showed the recovered remains of a small scout ship, similar in design to some of the smaller vessels used by council races. Since then, we have recovered 16 more crashed vessels of various origins. Some appeared to be damaged in conflicts. Others suffered technical failures. Each provided pieces to a puzzle. The council members watched in silence as Dr. Nelson showed how humans had carefully studied and reverse-engineered alien technology over decades. We kept our advances secret. Earth's history is filled with stories of more advanced civilizations conquering less developed ones. We wanted to be prepared when we finally met our galactic neighbors. Ambassador Krell of the Zarnaxian delegation jumped to his feet. "This is absurd. They are admitting to stealing technology. They violated the natural development protocols." A tall, insect-like alien from another delegation clicked its mandibles before speaking. "But Ambassador Krell, the Zarnaxians violated the most sacred protocol, attacking a world without council approval. Your ships fired first." Krell's yellow eyes narrowed. Earth was listed as a permitted resource acquisition target in our databases. This statement caused another wave of murmurs through the council. Supreme Counselor Xin Zarath leaned forward. "Permitted resource acquisition. There is no such classification in council law." "I believe I can explain," said Captain Alan Wright, stepping up to join Dr. Nelson. "Our captured Zarnaxian data core contains communications between their military command and someone inside the Council's classification department." He played a recording of two voices, one Zarnaxian and one from an unknown species, discussing payments for reclassifying several worlds, including Earth, as open for resource acquisition, instead of protected developing worlds. The chamber went completely silent. "This appears to be evidence of corruption within our own systems," Shinzarath said slowly. "A very serious allegation." Ambassador Diane Powell nodded. "We believe the Zarnaxians have been systematically targeting worlds they thought would be easy conquests, bribing officials to change records, and harvesting resources without consequences." Ambassador Krell stood rigidly. "These are fabricated lies. The humans are trying to distract from their own violations." But his protests weakened as Captain Wright displayed more evidence from the data core, records of other worlds conquered, populations enslaved, and resources stripped. At the back of the chamber, a small group of representatives from various species exchanged nervous glances. One of them, a reptilian being with pale blue scales, slipped quietly toward an exit. Dr. Nelson continued her explanation. "Earth chose to hide our true capabilities because we sensed danger. The Zarnaxians proved us right. We developed in secret, building defenses and studying the communications we intercepted from passing ships." She showed images of hidden human facilities around the world, underground bases in Montana, underwater research centers in the Pacific, and camouflaged satellite systems in orbit. We learned your languages, studied your cultures, and prepared for this day, not as conquerors, but as a species determined to protect our home. The council members looked at each other, some with expressions of respect, others with clear concern. The humans had managed what few other species had. They had entered the galactic stage on their own terms, prepared and undefeated. Supreme Counselor Sinzarath's voice was solemn. We must investigate these claims fully. If proven true, the Zarnaxians will face severe consequences. In the corner of the chamber, Ambassador Krell's hand moved slowly toward a concealed device in his robes. Intelligence Officer Jake Martinez moved silently through the curved corridors of the captured Zarnaxian flagship. His black stealth suit absorbed light and masked his heat signature. The ship hung in Earth orbit, a prize of war now being studied by human scientists. Jake had a different mission: find the command center and extract any intelligence about Zarnaxian plans. I've reached level 4, he whispered into his wrist communicator. Still no resistance. Their remaining crew must be in the lower sections. Proceed with caution, came the voice of Major Sandra Garcia from Earth Command. Our scans show the main data center should be 200 meters ahead. Jake checked his handheld scanner, which displayed a three-dimensional map of the ship based on initial surveys. The data center was marked with a pulsing red dot. He moved forward, keeping his back to the curved walls. The Zarnaxian ship's interior was surprisingly beautiful, walls of what looked like polished metal with swirling patterns that glowed faintly. The air carried a sweet, spicy scent unlike anything on Earth. When Jake reached the data center door, he placed a small device against the control panel. The human-designed technology interfaced with the alien system, cycling through possible combinations until the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, rows of crystal-like structures rose from the floor to the ceiling. Each crystal glowed with internal light, storing data in ways humans were still learning to understand. Jake pulled out a specialized device developed by Dr. Miller's team and began downloading information. "You won't believe what I'm seeing," he said as he worked. "These aren't just military records. They've been tracking hundreds of developing worlds across 3 galactic sectors." As the download continued, Jake browsed through some of the files. What he found made his blood run cold. "Sandra, the Zarnaxian operation is bigger than we thought. According to these files, they've completely stripped resources from 11 worlds in the past 20 years. 3 civilizations were rendered extinct in the process." "Any mention of Earth specifically?" Sandra asked. "Yes," Jake replied, his voice grim. "We were targeted because deep scans detected large deposits of a rare element called Quantium-40 in our ocean floors. It's apparently essential for their new weapons program." Jake continued downloading files, uncovering a web of corruption extending into the Galactic Council itself. The Zarnaxians had paid enormous bribes to have worlds reclassified and records altered. The conspiracy involved officials from at least 6 different species. Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Diane Powell received an encrypted message on her communication device. Her eyes widened slightly as she read Jake's discoveries. "Supreme Counselor, I request immediate action," she said, cutting across the ongoing debate. "We have just uncovered evidence that the Zarnaxian conspiracy extends to members currently present in this chamber." The chamber erupted again. Sinzarath raised both hands for silence. "These are severe accusations, Ambassador Powell. What evidence do you present?" Captain Alan Wright stepped forward, holding up a small device that projected a series of names, dates, and transaction records pulled from Jake's download. "We have financial records showing payments from Zarnaxian military funds to council officials, including," he paused dramatically, "Senior Classification Officer Verin of the Torlian Federation." All eyes turned to the reptilian being with pale blue scales who had been trying to leave the chamber earlier. Verin froze, then suddenly bolted toward the exit. 2 of Earth's security officers moved with surprising speed, blocking his path. Verin hissed and reached for a weapon. But the humans were faster. They restrained him without injury as Council security approached. Ambassador Krell's hand moved away from his hidden device. His plan to activate it had been interrupted by this new development. "These accusations are outrageous," he shouted, but his voice lacked conviction. Supreme Counselor Sinzarath's expression was grave. "If these records are authentic, this represents the most serious breach of Council law in 500 cycles." He turned to the Earth delegation. "Ambassador Powell, how did your operative gain access to these records so quickly?" Diane smiled slightly. "Intelligence Officer Martinez infiltrated the Zarnaxian command ship during our counterattack. When their shields failed, we transported him aboard." This revelation caused another stir. Transportation technology was considered advanced even by Council standards. "You continue to surprise us, humans," Sinzarath said, perhaps dangerously so. As security led Varin away for questioning, the weight of Earth's revelations settled As the Galactic Council debated the human evidence, the Zarnaxian military launched a desperate second attack on Earth. This time, they sent their entire regional fleet. 37 warships armed with improved weapons designed to overcome Earth's defenses. On Earth Defense Station Alpha, Lieutenant Frank Davis watched the incoming fleet with growing concern. "Captain, long-range sensors detect multiple wormhole signatures, far more than the first attack." Captain Alan Wright had returned to Earth after leaving Ambassador Powell to continue negotiations at the Council. He studied the tactical display, his face grim. "Alert all defense platforms. Deploy our remaining quantum disruptors." "Sir," Sandra Garcia said, her voice tight. "Calculations suggest our current defenses may not withstand this level of attack." Elen nodded. "I know, but we still have some surprises left." The Zarnaxian fleet emerged from wormhole space, immediately forming an attack pattern. Their weapons charged, targeting Earth's major defense installations first. Supreme General Vexthor, commanding from a new flagship, watched with satisfaction. "The humans caught us unprepared before. This time, we will crush them and take what we need. Fire all weapons." Energy beams lanced toward Earth, more powerful than those in the first attack. Several defense platforms took direct hits, their shields failing under the onslaught. "Shields at 40% and falling," Frank reported as the station shook from a near miss. Sandra looked up from her console. "Sir, we're detecting new wormhole signatures, but they're not Zarnaxian." A new fleet appeared behind the Zarnaxian forces, sleek white ships with glowing blue engines. There were dozens of them, forming a perfect battle formation. "We're receiving a transmission," Lisa Brown announced, surprise evident in her voice. The main screen activated, showing a humanoid figure with pale silver skin and large almond-shaped eyes. "I am Admiral Threll of the Eldurian Defense Force. Stand firm, people of Earth. You are not alone in this fight." The Eldurian ships moved with incredible precision, their weapons firing in coordinated patterns that cut through the Zarnaxian rear guard. The alien ships that had seemed so powerful against Earth now appeared outmatched by this new force. Supreme General Vexthor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "Eldurians. Here. How did they know?" His second-in-command had no answers, only bad news. "Sir, our rear ships are taking heavy damage. The Eldurians are using phase shift technology our shields cannot block." On Earth, Commander Laura Bennett of the North American Defense Command received orders to coordinate with the Eldurian fleet. Her team quickly adapted their communication systems to integrate with the alien tactical network. "This is Commander Bennett to Admiral Threll. We're sensing our defense grid to your attack pattern. Target data is transmitting now." "Acknowledged, Commander," came the calm reply. "Your species continues to impress us with your adaptability." The combined Earth and Eldurian forces pushed against the Zarnaxian fleet. Earth's remaining quantum disruptors, launched from hidden moon bases, disabled the shields on 3 enemy capital ships. The Eldurians immediately targeted those vessels, their precision weapons striking critical systems. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Diane Powell received news of the second attack and the Eldurian intervention. She immediately informed Supreme Counselor Sinzorath. "Another unprovoked assault on our world," she said, her voice firm. "And now we have witnesses to Zarnaxian aggression." The Eldurian representative in the council, a tall female named Salome, stood up. "The Eldurian Confederation has been observing Earth for 2 centuries. We plan to initiate formal contact within the next decade, as their development reached appropriate levels." She turned to face the Zarnaxian delegation. "Instead, we watched as the Zarnaxians violated every contact protocol in the compact. We could not stand by while a promising species faced extinction." Back in Earth orbit, the battle turned decisively. The Zarnaxian flagship, targeted by both human and Eldurian weapons, lost engine power and began drifting. Admiral Threll's forces executed a perfect encirclement maneuver, trapping the remaining Zarnaxian ships. "Supreme General," the Zarnaxian weapons officer reported, "we cannot break through their formation. Our primary weapons are depleted, and 17 ships are disabled." Vexthor's 4 eyes narrowed in fury, then resignation. "Send the surrender signal. This battle is lost." As the Zarnaxian fleet powered down their weapons, Admiral Threll opened a channel to Earth. "Commander Bennett, Captain Wright, today marks the beginning of a new alliance. The people of Earth have earned their place among the stars." 2 weeks after the failed Zarnaxian attack, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled to capacity. Representatives from over 200 worlds gathered to witness the trial of the Zarnaxian leadership. Supreme General Vexthor stood in the center of the chamber, his 4 eyes downcast, his once proud posture now slumped in defeat. Chief Prosecutor Ryan Cooper approached the general. Before becoming Earth's representative in this historic trial, Ryan had been a district attorney in Chicago. His experience prosecuting organized crime had prepared him well for exposing the Zarnaxian conspiracy. "Supreme General Vexthor," Ryan began, his deep voice carrying throughout the chamber, "you stand accused of crimes against sentient beings, violation of the Protected Worlds Treaty, and corruption of council systems. How do you plead?" Vexthor looked up, hatred burning in his yellow eyes. "I acted for the glory and prosperity of the Zarnaxian Empire. I recognize no authority of this council over my actions." Ryan nodded as if expecting this answer. He activated a holographic display visible to all present. "Let me present the evidence of your crimes." Over the next hour, Ryan methodically showed records recovered from Zarnaxian data cores. He displayed images of worlds stripped of resources, indigenous populations enslaved or displaced, and official council records that had been altered through bribes. "In the past 30 years, Ryan said, the Zarnaxian Empire has targeted 23 developing worlds classified as protected under council law. 3 of these civilizations were completely destroyed. 8 others lost over half their populations. The council members watched in silence. Many had suspected Zarnaxian misconduct, but were shocked by its scale. On planet Mira II, Ryan continued, showing devastating images of a once beautiful world, now reduced to mining pits. 6 million sentient beings died when Zarnaxian forces disrupted the planet's atmospheric systems to more easily extract rare minerals. Supreme Counselor Sinzorath's voice was solemn. "And what of the council officials who assisted in these crimes?" Ryan changed the display to show the results of the corruption investigation. 27 officials from 12 species have been identified as taking bribes from the Zarnaxian military. Senior Classification Officer Zarian has provided testimony confirming all charges. In a corner of the chamber, Ambassador Diane Powell watched with satisfaction. Earth had not only defended itself, but had exposed a rot within the galactic community that had threatened many worlds. Ambassador Krell, the last free representative of the Zarnaxian government, stood to speak. "The Zarnaxian Empire acknowledges these actions were taken by our military leadership without proper governmental oversight. We request leniency in exchange for full cooperation in identifying all involved parties." Ryan's face showed no sympathy. The evidence suggests this was not a rogue military operation, but official Zarnaxian policy approved at the highest levels. After hours of testimony and evidence, the council voted unanimously. Supreme Counselor Ixin-Zarath delivered the verdict. Supreme General Vex Thor and all military commanders involved in these operations are sentenced to life imprisonment on the penal moon of Draxus. The Zarnaxian government will be placed under council supervision for 50 standard years. Reparations will be paid to all affected worlds, including Earth. Ixin-Zarath paused, then continued. Furthermore, this council acknowledges its failure to protect developing worlds, as mandated by our founding principles. A complete reform of our classification and monitoring systems will begin immediately. He turned to the Earth delegation. In recognition of Earth's role in exposing this conspiracy, and in acknowledgement of your world's demonstrated advancement, we extend formal invitation for Earth to join the Galactic Compact as a full member with Level 4 civilization status. The chamber filled with applause from many delegations. The Eldurian representatives stood in a gesture of respect. Ambassador Powell stepped forward to accept. On behalf of the people of Earth, we accept this invitation. We look forward to joining the galactic community as partners in maintaining peace and justice. As Vex Thor was led away by Council security, he glared at the humans one last time. You may have won today, he hissed. But remember this, you have made other enemies by your actions here. The galaxy is dangerous, and Earth is still young. Ryan Cooper watched him go, his expression thoughtful. Earth had won its first galactic conflict, but Vex Thor's final warning suggested it might not be the last. 1 year after the Zarnaxian attack, Earth had transformed. The massive galactic embassy complex in Antarctica stood as a symbol of humanity's new place in the cosmos. Built on neutral territory through an international agreement, the complex featured architecture that blended human design with alien influences. Admiral Alan Wright, recently promoted from captain, walked along the main promenade. Through the transparent dome overhead, he could see ships from a dozen worlds hovering in the clear Antarctic sky. The sight still amazed him, even after months of regular contact with alien civilizations. Quite a view, isn't it? Said Ambassador Diane Powell, joining him at the observation rail. Her diplomatic role had expanded to Earth's chief representative to the Galactic Council. Ellen nodded. Sometimes I still expect to wake up and find it was all a dream. No dream, Diane said with a smile. Though I doubt anyone would have predicted this outcome when the Zarnaxians first appeared. They continued walking toward the Grand Council chamber, where the first Earth-hosted Galactic Council session would begin in 1 hour. Representatives from 173 worlds had arrived for this historic meeting. How are the defense upgrades progressing? Diane asked as they walked. On schedule, Alan replied. The Eldurians have been incredibly helpful. The new shield system covers all major cities, and the orbital platforms are at full strength. Their conversation paused as they passed a group of Eldurian diplomats. Admiral Threll, now serving as the Eldurian ambassador to Earth, greeted them warmly. Admiral Wright, Ambassador Powell, today marks an important milestone in your world's journey. Inside the council chamber, delegates took their places. Dr. Greg Miller stood with a team of Eldurian scientists near a large covered display. Their year of collaboration had produced something remarkable. Supreme Counselor Ixin-Zarath called the session to order. We gather today on Earth, a world that has shown us the dangers of complacency and the value of vigilance. 1 year ago, this planet faced destruction. Today, it hosts us as equals. Ambassador Powell approached the central platform to address the gathering. Honored representatives, Earth welcomes you not just as visitors, but as partners in maintaining galactic peace. The Zarnaxian assault on our world could have ended in tragedy. Instead, it opened the door to a new era of cooperation. She gestured toward Dr. Miller and the Eldurian scientists. Today, we present the first fruit of that cooperation. Dr. Miller unveiled the display, showing a new defense system designed to protect developing worlds from unauthorized contact or exploitation. The Guardian Network, he explained, combines Earth's quantum disruptor technology with Eldurian sensor arrays. When deployed around a developing world, it will prevent unauthorized ships from approaching, while alerting the Council to any violation attempts. The delegates murmured with approval. Several rose to ask questions about the system's capabilities and deployment schedule. In the back of the chamber, Intelligence Officer Jake Martinez watched the proceedings with satisfaction. He had spent the past year working with Council security to track down the last of the corrupt officials involved in the Zarnaxian conspiracy. As the session continued, Admiral Wright slipped out to a small observation deck overlooking the Antarctic landscape. The stark beauty of the ice contrasted with the advanced alien vessels hovering above. Admiral Threll joined him. "Your thoughts seem distant, Admiral." Alan smiled slightly, just reflecting on how quickly everything has changed. A year ago, we were alone, pretending to be less advanced than we were. Now we're hosting the Galactic Council. "Change is the only constant in the universe," Threll replied, "though few species manage it as dramatically as humans." "What challenges do you think we'll face next?" Alan asked. Threll's expression grew serious. "The galaxy is vast and filled with wonders, but also dangers. The Zarnaxians were just one species that chose exploitation over cooperation. There are others. Then we'll face them together," Alan said with conviction. "Earth learned long ago that unity is strength." As the Antarctic sun cast long shadows across the ice, the two military leaders from different worlds stood side by side, watching Earth's first sunset as a recognized galactic power. Beyond the atmosphere, stars began to appear, no longer distant points of light, but destinations and homes of allies and friends. Earth had faced its trial by fire, and emerged stronger, wiser, and no longer alone in the cosmos.